My name is Marie, and this is Likened Unto Me, my personal scripture journey. From the first generation in the Book of Mormon, the Nephites and the Lamanites fight. Nephi splits off with all the family members that will go with him to get away from Laman and Lemuel. And from then on, the two groups are called Nephites and Lamanites. And Nephi says he had to make copies of the sword of Laban so that his people could defend themselves. And that pattern continues for more than 500 years. The Lamanites attack the Nephites, and the Nephites eventually push them back. There is actually one time when the Nephites have to flee again, and that's under the reign of the first King Mosiah, who was King Benjamin's father. And the Nephites who go with him find the people of Zarahemla, and that city becomes the new Nephite capital. Anyway, 500 years is a long time for two nations to be fighting every couple decades or so. I wonder if in lots of ways they kind of forgot why they did it. I mean, I know the Lamanites call the Nephites the sons of a liar and thief, but do they really even remember why their fathers thought Nephi was a thief? Maybe, maybe not. But 500 years is a long time. And then Captain Moroni comes along. We first meet Captain Moroni when Zarahemna and a bunch of Nephite dissenters convince the Lamanites to attack the Nephites again. Nephite dissenters are no new thing. There are a few different groups of Nephites that are mentioned as having left the Nephites and joined the Lamanites. They're talked about as being super hard-hearted when Ammon and Aaron and the sons of Mosiah go to preach to the Lamanites. And the newest group of dissenters is the Zoramites. Yes, those Zoramites. Rameumptum, faith is like a seed, all that. They have joined the Lamanites and are now returning with them to try to overthrow the Nephites. But they are met with a surprise. The Nephites have armor. Captain Moroni had prepared his armies differently than had ever been done before, with breastplates and arm shields and shields to protect their heads and thick clothing. And in fact, it makes the Lamanites so nervous, who only have their weapons and a little loincloth to wear, that they try to run away from the Nephite armies and go to attack a different part of the land. But then Captain Moroni does something else to surprise them. He uses strategy by hiding part of his forces so he can surround the Lamanites instead of just meeting them head on. And the Lamanites were not prepared for that. Now fast forward about 2 years. Amalickiah has dissented from the Nephites, has managed to become king of the Lamanites through murder and deceit, and is now sending his armies to attack the Nephites. But they learned some things from the last time. Now, they have armor too. And with breastplates and shields and the massive numbers of soldiers they have, the Lamanites are pretty confident they'll win. But, lo and behold, Captain Moroni surprises them again with something that's never been done before. He's been fortifying their cities. He has dug a ridge around the two weakest Nephite cities and made it so high that it says in Alma chapter 49 that the Lamanites could not cast their stones and their arrows at them that they might take effect. Neither could they come upon them save it was by their place of entrance. Now at this time, the chief captains of the Lamanites were astonished exceedingly because of the wisdom of the Nephites in preparing their places of security. To the Lamanites' uttermost astonishment, they were prepared for them in a manner which never had been known among the children of Lehi. So Captain Moroni didn't just sit around after defeating Zarahemna thinking their armor was good enough. He dug ridges around the cities, and they are able to handily defeat the Lamanites in this first go-around from Amalickiah, and the Lamanites don't come back for 4 years. But did Captain Moroni think that the ridges were enough to defend his people? No, he didn't stop there. They built walls and pickets and towers and places of resorts, which I imagine is maybe like safe houses, and all sorts of stuff during this time of peace. And that's not all. Captain Moroni had been preparing the minds of the people to be faithful unto the Lord their God. Captain Moroni is one of my favorite people in the Book of Mormon, and I love the number of lessons I've been able to draw from the war chapters. And if you're interested in listening to more episodes about Captain Moroni, I'm going to put a link in the description for this episode that will take you to a list of all of the episodes about Captain Moroni that I have. So what does Captain Moroni introducing all of these new methods into defending his people during war have to do with us? It actually reminds me of something President Nelson said in General Conference back in 2021. He talked about the work being done to strengthen the foundation of the Salt Lake Temple, and he said, "It is now time that we each implement extraordinary measures, perhaps measures we have never taken before, to strengthen our personal spiritual foundations. Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures." Since he was ordained in 2018, President Nelson has issued multiple invitations as president of the church of things that we can do to strengthen our spiritual foundations, our spiritual fortifications, to better defend ourselves from the attacks of the adversary, to bring the protection of our covenants more fully into our lives. He is our Captain Moroni during this phase of the war against Satan. So, what are you doing that you have never done before to strengthen your spiritual foundation and fortification? Is it keeping pen and paper close by during your personal prayers to write down thoughts that come to your mind? Is it increasing your temple attendance? Is it finding more reverence during the sacrament? I think this is one of those questions that the answer will look different for lots of people. The Lord knows what each of us needs, and through his prophet and the Spirit, he will help us to know what we can do next to be better prepared for the fiery darts of the adversary. We just have to actually do it. Thanks for listening. Any quotes or scriptures or stories that I used are cited in the description. This is likened unto me, my personal scripture journey.